I'm going to see how quickly I can do this. I want to shoot some kind of response here to the recent Thunderfoot video called "A House Divided Against Itself." Now, I'm not against the concerns of the video. I share them. Do I want dogma being indoctrinated into children, and some of these concerns, I think they're just, I so agree with them, and so I don't want to be misunderstood in my largely critical assessment of this video. I just want it first to be said that yes, okay, I agree with some of the concerns. The concern that I have with the video, though, is that it seems to be so much less than what it supposedly is advocating or aspiring to. I mean, if we really want to celebrate reason and reasoning and the use of rationality, then why use the strategies and techniques of the video in order to win adherents or gain subscribers? It seems very odd. In many ways, the video is a montage of images, of associations, of kind of sandbagging people with the popular. And let me see if I can explain that. I think there is a kind of sandbagging of the popular throughout, and this is a strategy that seems to be used in this video. Now, when I say that, sandbagging of the popular, it's like he's taking the maybe the dominant or even the worst forms of some of the dominant religious beliefs out there, and then saying that's what all religious beliefs are. That's what they all hold. It's like me saying, well, eugenics, that's basically what science is. I mean, if I say that fundamentalist Baptist sort of theology is what religion is, it is. It's the equivalent of somebody saying, well, eugenics, that's basically all science is. It's, well, no, that was one way of taking science and applying it. You can't take one strand of Christianity and then have that be the definition of religion. I mean, you're equivocating all over the place about what do you mean by religion, what do you mean by religious beliefs, what do you mean by organized religion, what do you mean by Christianity, how are all these things related to one another? You're sort of bobbling around very much in an imprecise way, in a less than thoughtful and critical way. It seems, again, much more like a sort of fanning and airing flames to get people rallied, which, I'm not against that so much as I'm against calling it use of rationality or an ode to the flag of rationality. It seems somewhat disingenuous. I think the same disingenuous character, I mean, it comes out when you just look at, try to take popular music just as an example. I mean, someone might say that so much popular music boils down to just being crap. I mean, people have no idea why certain people suddenly become very popular, but for whatever reason they are. But to say that because the bulk of the really popular music is crap, then therefore all music is crap, that would be ridiculous. I think we want to say, yeah, for whatever reason, popular tastes are crappy tastes, and popular tastes, for whatever reason, whether that is in music or religion, they're dubious, they're questionable. But when you go to this issue of the great art, the great science in history, Western history, if I say the great art, and I mean music, literature, sculpture, painting, to what extent has that been inspired by belief in the divine? To what extent did the people who created that great art, were they imagining some divine mind which would judge and assess it, and to whom it would be given as a tribute? I think without acknowledging that fact, and you don't have to over romanticize it and oversell it, but to acknowledge it is, I think, less than genuine. I think it's somewhat intellectually dishonest, and it's not being what I would call rational. Yeah, rational would be, well, let's just openly discuss all of the variety here and really try to think about what's going on. To what extent were some of the great scientists of the Age of Enlightenment, Age of Reason, to what extent were they harboring very sophisticated notions of God. Uh, People like, we take Newton, you know, their notions of God were not at all the popular ones, but they weren't saying, let's get rid of all notions of God because the popular one is particularly dubious. I think they were going, yes, it's sort of like popular music. I don't, I mean, let me try it a different way. And I'm just trying to get clear here why I think there's something very funny, this sort of sandbagging by this cult of the popular that's sort of going on. But so he gives this stream during this video, and in the stream he shows himself and some other atheist YouTubers, Aaron Ra and DPR Jones or something like this, and says, there's people here supporting reason on YouTube, and okay, fair enough. The question is, of all of the views on YouTube, though, of all of the people who watch YouTube and the subscribers out there like Angry Orange, or the channels out there like Angry Orange and whatnot, I mean, most people on YouTube, they're not here cultivating reason. They're sort of pandering to irrational, comical, farting around waste of time. They're goofing off. They're giggling, farting to the popular schlock. And so it seems like irrationality is the kind of rule and the use of rationality is the exception. So, I mean, by comparative standards, you know, in the same way that someone might say that religion is dominated by popular, dogmatic, irrational beliefs, at least popular religion is, so then let's just get rid of religion wholesale. Well, someone might say that of art. Well, so much of art is bad art, and so much of music, at least the popular music, is bad music. Let's just get rid of music. I mean, imagine somebody saying, well, so much of YouTube is basically just schlock. I mean, in some way, you're really no different than the Angry Orange. I mean, that's sort of kind of what you're doing. That's the logic that you're doing. And I think if you can't see the bias in what you're doing, this is part of the problem. That I think the media themselves bring an orientation and a bias, and people who haven't studied the history of communication technologies, who aren't really trying to understand what the differences of consciousness are between the wholly oral mind, the literate mind, and then now the technologically mediated one, and what this kind of experience, and I mean the visual images, I mean, it's sometimes called the age of television or the televisual culture. It's very different than the age of topography and the age of reason and enlightenment that was funded by a kind of analytic mind that reads words that sit still. Your video is this flow of associations, like we're looking at some scale and some little visual image that has proportionality of weights balanced, that's enough of a scientific tipping to get us to go, oh, of course, this is somehow related to religion. Oh, I see. I mean, to not see this as just a sea of associations and analogies and kinds of sandbagging. I mean, just as an example, I agree. I think we all perhaps agree that the tax-free money and all of this money being spent by religious organizations, no, this is unjust and this is unfair. But this means that the better way to spend the money is to go to Mars? I mean, look at your bias. There are people around the globe who really need serious efforts toward green technologies. We need a revolution in the way that we understand our relationship to the planet. But instead, I'm not really sure what it is that you are promising. And I think there are some people who their spiritual connection to the earth, again, their spiritual connection to the earth is something that it's not a kind of religious dogma. It's not some sort of belief. It may have nothing to do with organized religion,